Glad I remembered that, because that would have really been a bummer. Because I have to go to Santa Fe this Thursday and I cannot re-record something or record it for the first time. Okay, so last week we sort of laid in most of our kind of lights. We started on some of this this stuff back here. These kind of greener, darker, kind of green blue trees. We'll say that they're junipers and pinon and whatever I guess they could be pinon or they may probably mostly juniper, but I can't remember what all grows. Well, no, there's pinon in that area too. I didn't put any up here yet. I still want to put like kind of a light yellow wash, kind of like what we did here first. And then I want to, I remember now we also, now that I'm looking at this closely, it's a little hard to see in real life, but there is that nice little kind of opera wash that we put down over most everything as kind of just a unifying wash underneath on the snow to kind of give us that kind of pink, kind of late evening, cool kind of glow on the snow. We'll probably end up putting a little bit of yellow in there as well. Yeah, that's where we're at so far. Some of this, like where I feel like maybe I lost some of the light that I wanted on these trees, I can go back in and lift a little bit out and then maybe even drop in a little permanent yellow deep, or even lemon, either of those. So let's see. Where are we now? We want to, what do we want to do? I kind of want to hang off on doing the road right yet and kind of finish up doing some stuff up here. I did make that a little bit more red than I think I initially wanted to, but that's all right.
What part was that?
The cliff. I think I put in a little bit more red. I made those areas bigger than I really originally intended, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. I am going to use my number 6 brush. I'm going to go in with some dark areas where I know that like there's this kind of crack that has a pretty dark little shadow. So I'm going to use some purple there. I've already got a little bit of kind of violet over in there, in here, but I want to go in a little darker there. So I'm going to take some here. Let me kind of tilt this so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to take this is quinacridone violet that I have right here. It looks way darker on camera than it does in person. I can't. Let's see if I can kind of find it. There it is right there. Why don't I just take this out for a second? So you can see it's not that dark. I have a little bit of it here on top, and I want to start with. Oops, there you go. I want to start with that. This was just a little clean spot, and I'm just going to pull in. I know that this is like indigo right here, and or it could be Antwerp blue or Prussian blue or royal blue, any of those. I'm just going to use that to kind of make this darker purple. I still want some of the quinacridone violet by itself as well, but I'm just going to let me put this back in here. I'm just going to I'm going to use a little of the quinacridone violet and blue mix. And as long as you come up with something that's kind of close to what I had there, it doesn't, it's not too big a deal. Any of, the violets that you that you have any you could use permanent magenta, which is very similar to that, in some sort of blue, royal blue, Prussian blue, Antwerp blue, indigo, and still come out with that same violet. So I'm going to first start off though with a little of that quinacridone violet. You could use permanent magenta or even alizarin crimson. I'm going to just come in with a little bit of the quinacridone. I'm sorry, yeah, quinacridone violet, just in here, just to kind of get in kind of a little bit of dark. I don't want it really hugely dark like that dark purple I've mixed. That's going to come here in a second. I want just a little of that in there. Let's see. This I need to deal with, so I'm not going to worry about it yet, because that's really kind of part of this top area. This kind of actually jiggers over a little bit and back around and does some stuff, but it doesn't matter. We'll just make it kind of bigger than it actually is in there. That way it looks like it's kind of wheeling around, and there's a little bit more interesting shape to this rock face and that rock face. So there. And then I want a little more perhaps over here. This area should be a little bit bigger, the dark. I think I want that. Just kind of sculpt that shape a little bit differently. And then again, so I'm writing, I just want to, I sort of wash this out, and I want this to be a little bit sharper right in there. So I've got that, maybe even, let's see, I've got kind of a dark going on there too. It doesn't really, mine doesn't really correspond to anything in particular, but I'm going to just kind of bring that down here. Apparently I made 2 of these spaces, so, but that's all right. So we'll just have this. That look like so. And this can even come over maybe just a little bit wider. Like maybe that rock faces a little bit. Got a bit of a bevel in there. Maybe it just sort of peters out down here. Like that. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Really, this probably, I should have had this sort of dip that I drew right here. Really should correspond more with that, but it doesn't matter. Nobody will know that. Nobody will care, unless maybe a geologist is looking at the painting, but even they won't care. My college geology professor might. Okay, and then I want a little bit more. Basically, I'm waiting for that to dry while I'm doing these other little spots. I want a little bit more over here. I have this kind of crack that sort of runs down here. So I'm just going to put in that and kind of make that a little bit darker like so. So maybe that bit sort of comes in, and this is sticking out a little bit right here and casting that shadow onto this rock. And so then it sort of peters in and sort of comes back in and meets that. So it kind of peters out a little bit. Okay, so that's probably, now let's just hit that real quick with a dryer. Just to get that a little drier. I don't want this to blend quite as much as I think it would have. So now I'm going with that dark purple that I mixed, and I want just a bit of that kind of down into this crack. So it just kind of follows along like so. And you can see, I mean, let me zoom in on that for you. You can kind of see, let's see, maybe like that. Okay. I can get it to focus. You can kind of see it's just a real, there we go. With the glare, you can kind of see it. So it looks like it's light right there, but it's not. You can kind of see that that's just a real thin little bit that I want in there, this really dark. So I'm going to do the same. I'm going to grab a little more of that over here. And I'm just going to do the same on this little bit here. So this is just a little bit of a deeper crack back in that shadow, like so. So you can kind of see it that way. We'll come in with just a wee bit, maybe over here. And just a bit back in. So you can see I didn't do a whole lot. Let's, while we're at it, let's come in. I think this dark area, this super dark area would be up against this. Is this sort of
I'm not seeing her.
What's that?
Oh, whoops, sorry.
Oh, no worries. I thought you were asking me what. No worries. So this, because this section of this section of rock right here sticks out further than this portion. This shadow, this really dark shadow is going to be back up in there, like so. And I may need to, you know, like on this one, I may need to come back in here and kind of soften that a bit. We'll see. But that's really all that. It looks a little funky, and I may have to add some more orange. I think I'm going to have to add some more yellow. Maybe some azo yellow. Grab a little azo yellow. Again, you could use permanent yellow deep if you don't have azo yellow. Permanent yellow lemon. So, you know, lemon yellow. Something like that would work fine. And I'm just going to add a bit on top of this just to give it kind of an orange glow. I'm going to do the same over here. And all this is just a kind of a thin wash of that orange, but you can see, or that azo yellow in this case. As you can see, that just gives it a bit of a warmer glow. I'm going to do that over this whole little bit over here too. Just kind of, and that just warms up all of that. And the trick here, at least in my opinion, isn't to necessarily make this look 100% realistic. It's just to give that impression of that evening in the winter when you get that you know, bright golden reflection off of stuff. I mean, it happens in the summer too, but it's really apparent in the winter for some reason. I don't know, the air is crisper. I'm going to come down in here as well with a little of that. Same yellow. And then mainly because I just want this to be a little bit wet in here, so I'm just going to pull in that like so. And then I'm going to come in and grab a little permanent yellow orange and come in with some of that and some around here. All this is really doing is just adding a bit of color and texture. There. So let's get this kind of wet over here. I'll grab some of that azo yellow that I have on my palette and put that right in here. And then a little bit of that orange just to kind of get it to blend in. Let's do some more over here. More of that azo yellow. and some of this orange. Not too much, so I want to add a little water to that because that was a little weird looking. And it's kind of starting to blend in with this kind of bushy shape here, which is fine. I'm thinking I may, let's see, add a little of that over here, just like so. I'm thinking I may end up putting more shadow on the side of this anyway, so that's okay. Mainly because, the sun's coming across this way, and I think I need to add more kind of sharper shadows. Yeah. So, all right. So let's I'm gonna go ahead and use that same. And you could use permanent yellow deep for this. I just happen to have that Azo yellow fairly handy. I'm just going to kind of come in here with a little bit of that on top, where that dirt, sand and dirt is catching that sun. Grab a little of that. I grabbed a little of the permanent yellow deep just to vary it a little bit. It's so similar that it doesn't really matter, but we'll just kind of get that laid in there. And honestly, I probably should have put that wash in with the other first wash, but it's, sometimes I find myself, there's a little bit up here. Sometimes I find myself forgetting that I make that the top of the cliff face, and when really the cliff kind of that it kind of curves down before it has that sheer drop. Yeah. And what I think we could do real quick is come over and kind of deal with this little this side of the road over here, this bluff over here, which I'm not too crazy about that shape. I think I'm going to change that real quickly, just to make it look a little more bluff-like. It kind of comes up like that, and then maybe just a bit more of that shape. Just like that a little bit better. This is kind of, it's in shadow for the most part. So this is just going to be a real simple kind of wash, but it's going to allow us to sculpt this side of these bushy shapes here. So I kind of want to keep it in the cool range, obviously, because this is winter and I have a lot of warm colors in here. So I want it to be pretty cool. So what I'm going to do is, I have these purples mixed up over here. And then I have this, this was Hooker's Green and Royal Blue or Indigo, one of those. And I've already got a bit of this kind of gray purple right here, but I think I want it to be just a little bit more blue than that. So what I'm going to do is grab a little, and I'm just using my small brush. I grabbed a little of that quinacridone violet. I'm going to throw that in there. Now I grabbed a lot. That's okay. And then I'm going to grab, I think, I'm going to use a little Prussian blue, just because I haven't used it. That's over here. And we'll add a bit of that. We'll pull in some of the green to gray it up a little bit. And that's all that is just Hooker's Green and a blue to make that kind of blue-green. But this is a little too gray. I want this to be a little more blue, but at the same time kind of have that violet in there as well. Let's see, just a wee bit more of that. Yeah, I think I'm kind of happy with that. We'll see what happens. What I may do actually, and I know I'm going to do this, I'm going to, in the photo, there's a little hint of light at the top of that bluff. It's going to disappear on us, but I'm going to start with a slightly lighter violet. So I'll take that, just the quinacridone violet by itself and start this wash. And so that I have a bit of light at the top. So I'm just going to kind of bring that in. And you can see, I mean, it's not really light, you know, it's a watered down dark color, and it won't appear as light, but it'll be lighter than, well, it'll mimic, you know, kind of a bit of light up in and then now I'm going to switch over to that kind of blue, green, gray, violet thing. And I'm just going to kind of pull that down into here. And then as I get closer to the bottom of it, where this shrub thing is, I want to think about how let me just zoom in. I want to think about how I sculpt the top of these bushes. And I kind of thought, oh, well, I'm going to want a little bit more out here, maybe. So I'm just going to kind of bring this in and think about the tops. Maybe I want a little bit of that light yellow or even some of the white to come in. Let me grab a little bit more paint. It gets a little darker as we get down towards the bottom. But see how I just kind of sculpted that around there? It now is a more interesting shape than what it originally was. That. And then this can come down and make this kind of more interesting. Yeah, so that now has really made that a more interesting shape. And we'll do the same up here in the sky once we get to that point. Let me kind of clean up this little bit here. I don't really care for that. I'm just gonna, I had a pencil line there that it did. I got out of the line, and that's okay. I just want to clean up that line just a bit. Maybe a little bit more of that dark right in there. And what I can do is get a fairly watery version of that violet and drop it down on there, because it's still wet, quite a bit wet. And if I drop that in, that'll start running down and sort of displacing some of the dark. I mean, obviously it's still a dark, but it's not quite as dark. And then if I drop a little water here, let's see if I actually had some water in my brush, I can get kind of an interesting little tidbit where it's catching a little light somehow. And a lot of this will, you know, kind of be underneath another layer of you know, blue or whatever, where I want to kind of bring the focus in, although it may not be under much, because really I want to bring the focus into here. So I'm going to be kind of pushing you know, wow. I don't know if I need to zoom back out so you can see what I'm pointing at. I want this to, you know, this is kind of our area of interest right here. So that'll kind of help push that in. And then these shadows that we'll get going across here will kind of push us up. And then some of this will get darker. And you know, I'll do that spray of blue kind of around here with a very little bit up in there to really focus here. Okay, so I like what's going on there. I'm going to let that do its thing. Maybe I will just add just a bit more just to see what happens here. Grab a little. I want to kind of get a weird blossom where that kind of dried before everything else, because because there's a little bit of a bump right there. And so everything, all the paint was kind of going down like that. And I was getting a little light spot. So just added a little more paint. And I'm just going to step back and look at this really quickly. Yeah. Now, obviously, this seems really, really heavy, and it will for a little while. Right now, it's weighting our painting a lot towards the left, and I think Becky just lost her connection. I'm going to keep an eye for her. Okay, so while we're kind of thinking about this other, I'm thinking about this other stuff, but I'm going to I'm going to do these little trees up here. Now, if you remember, I have that kind of really light yellow green that I mixed using lemon yellow and permanent green #1, which is this one. So it gave me this nice little, I don't know if that's a pea green, kind of a light grass green right there. So I'm going to start with that. I saved that from last week. This is why I don't wash my palette out very often, because I end up mixing a color that I like, and so I want to be able to reuse it. Now, most of the time when I come back, there's not enough to do what I want to do, so I do end up having to remix it. But because there's some there, I generally can get it pretty close. Okay, so I'm just going to, I've got these little trees up here. I just want to put in some of this little bit of that green, maybe even, I may even grab a little, let's see, that seems too orange. I'm going to go with a little lemon yellow that I picked up just a touch of that permanent yellow deep in it, but I'm going to add some of that up in here as well. So I get kind of a nice little glow on some of that. Let me just come through here and add. So I switched to that lemon yellow that has a bit of permanent yellow deep mixed in. And well, Becky's still here. Who got?
My internet just comes in and out.
Oh, okay. So but you were able to get back in.
Yeah, just rehooks up, hopefully.
Okay. All right. So I put that little that lemon yellow, permanent yellow deep kind of mix in there, and then I'm going to come back in with that green that I was using here. So I'm just going to put a little of that in some spots. These trees up here are, even though in the photo they're kind of dark, I want the tops of them to be fairly light. They're really catching the light from the sun in there. I'm going to lift some back out of these, I think. And there's not a lot of detail to these either. So because they're so far away, I don't really need to, let's see, I really think that I need to add a couple more over here, maybe. And I'm just going to kind of freehand paint these things with my brush in kind of a tree shape because I wanted some more there. Let's come back in with that green now. That may be a bit much, so I'm going to clean my brush out and pick back up some of that, like so. Let me just bring this on over. I didn't really draw trees right there, but I think I want a few. I just want to kind of balance that out, make it look like they still go, because really technically they're all over the top of that, but it's not until this part of the cliff where you can't really see them. I just didn't draw them that way. And really, the drawing is just meant as a suggestion. It's just there to sort of help you remember where things go. So if if you end up adding a little bit more or subtracting some, maybe it's not as big as it originally was going to be, that's fine. So now I've got that Hooker's Green blue mix over here. I'm going to add a little bit more, just a wee bit more, let's see here, green to it. So it's a little more green. Over here, this is what it looked like, and I just picked up a little more Hooker's Green and threw it on this, and then just started getting that resaturated with some water. So it's a wee bit on the, a little bit more green side. So let me, oops. Let me, almost lost the screen again because I pushed that button. I put the button in the little off button in the mount for the phone. Okay, so I've got some of that. This should be fairly dry, but not really dry. Well, actually, it's way drier than I thought it would be. Probably because I have several fans on. It's kind of warm on this. I'm on the west side of the building, so even on kind of cooler days, this side of the building heats up in the afternoon. I'm just adding little tick marks. Let me bring this back down so you can see. Little tick marks in areas where I think it would be a little darker. That would be a little bit more dark on that side. But again, these don't have to be super realistic trees. They're just a suggestion of that. One of my favorite quotes, I'm sure I've said it to most of you guys before, is Tom Lynch. He always says, well, if it seems like it, feels like it, looks like it, must be it. And that's true. It feels like, trees on the top of that bluff. A little of that lighter green, and then a little bit, oops, that's the wrong green, a little bit of that dark blue green that I mixed. And that's really all. I'm just adding little tick marks in it. See, a little bit. I didn't like it focus when I get too close. Just where I think, oh well, there'll be a little shadow there from the branch sticking out or something. Maybe the backside of this one's going to be in shadow. Maybe this little bit's sticking out, so it's catching some light. But down in there, some dark. Let's bring this along here. So that's really all I'm doing, is just kind of thinking about, this kind of looks like a tree, and where that dark would be. How would I make that look a little bit like it has more volume? So there's that. And it really, all it has to do is just kind of look like some trees on the top of the bluff, and it kind of looks like some trees on the top of the bluff. But it does, it doesn't have to be perfect. I do, once that dries, I'm going to come in with a few little darks and stuff to kind of show some shadows down underneath the trees and stuff like that, to get them to kind of not look like they're floating in this yellow sea right there. I want that to look more like it's the top of the bluff. And there will be some shadows and some color variations, between earth tones and different earth tones and whatnot. But that's not too shabby. I'm pretty happy with that so far. I'm happy with how this dried. You can kind of see it did kind of a weird thing where I've got that light violet coming down, and it displaced some of that dark, and then I dropped a little water right there, and it displaced that dark as well. Probably a little too much detail on the edge of the paper there, but that's all right. Again, that will get knocked back a bit when I do that kind of blue spray. Okay, so I want to kind of start to help flatten this out a little bit. And to do that, the first thing I need to do, I think, is switch to a slightly larger brush. I'm going to go with my number 8. And I think I'm going to start, well, I know I'm not, I don't think, I know I'm going to start with some permanent yellow. No, why did I say permanent yellow? I'm going to start with some peacock blue because it started with a P, maybe? I don't know. I need to clean a little space off on my palette because I want that fairly clean peacock blue. Just clean the spot. And then because you know, if I really quickly, if I go to the source photo, which I happen to have open, you can see this looks like kind of like peacock blue. I mean, it could be a really light royal blue, or it could be like I have a verditer. No, what is it? Verditer blue. That's real light. It could also be a cerulean blue. That's a nice blue that kind of would any of those like cerulean blue and or verditer blue, and I'll show you those on my palette here in a second, would work really well. I just happen to like peacock blue a little bit more, so I'm going to stop sharing that real quick, and I'll show you really quickly what I'm talking about here. So I have this is verditer blue right there, that light blue. This is my peacock blue. And then this is the cerulean blue right there. And any one of those three would probably work really well. Even maybe a cobalt blue would look pretty good. I'm just going to use peacock blue, but if you don't have it, try a cerulean blue. Heck, you can even, in theory, I don't know what would happen if I took a little turquoise.
Michael, are you talking about for the snow?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So if I took a little of this turquoise, I happen to have some on my palette here. If I took a little turquoise and added just a touch of, you know, a darker color to it, like this kind of gray blue mix, it almost could work as that lighter, you know, as that blue shadow. But I'm going to use a little peacock blue, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I have this, it's nice bright peacock blue. But again, cerulean blue, verditer blue, even the Andrews turquoise mixed with some other blue would work pretty well. And I'm going to start up in here where I don't have too much detail to worry about. And I'm just going to, actually, I think I am going to start with a smaller brush. I know I switched to my number 8, but I'm going to stick with my 6 up in here. It's just a little claustrophobic for that. And I'm just going to kind of think about where shadows would be, because I know there are more bushy things past this group here. So I'm just going to kind of bring these across kind of horizontally, like so. I'm not going to worry about any of these streaks yet, you know, the ruts and stuff. I'm just kind of guessing where they might be. Let me zoom in because I don't think you can see that very well. So you can see I'm just kind of got some of this peacock blue, and I've added. Let's see. Ooh, this is a little thicker right there. A bit coming across. There's some more here. Let's kind of bring that in. Cool thing is, I can always hit this with a little water, really lighten it up, and then decide, oh, well, I don't like how that works. So there's a little bit. And all I'm doing is just adding a little bit to this to help flatten this out, make it look a bit more like a road. And I may even, what I'm going to do, I think, is I have a fairly substantial rut that I kind of saw. What I may do is just kind of bring that in like so. I know that doesn't look super great yet, and that's all right. I want to kind of bring it in with something thinner. And then kind of sculpt this one side. Maybe it's a little mushy. Maybe this side is a little straighter or something. And all that is just showing you, this is where I should have switched back to that bigger brush. All this is just a giant rut. And I'll add more shadows. I am going to switch to a larger number 8 brush right here. But this is just that first large rut that kind of comes through. It's a little hard to tell, but I kind of had it sketched in there. So we'll just add a little more of that. Now that I'm in a larger brush, I can cover more. I could even actually have switched to the number 10 round, but I think I'm just going to leave it at that. And then this may have straightened that out a little bit more than I wanted to, but that's all right. I'm gonna just kind of break this up now. So maybe that rut just kind of does this kind of thing now. And a little bit more light is coming through there. Let's see. Let's come up here again with this, and we'll have a couple of smaller ruts kind of coming in here. Just using the tip of my brush now. Maybe there's a thing going like that. And then I know I'm going to have another, at least one big giant rut, possibly some more. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. I kind of had a little bit of a line over here. So again, I'm just going to kind of bring, I'm going to guess, I want that to sort of start a little thinner, and then about here. The cool thing is you really can't mess this up. I'm going to get a little thicker. Sorry, I had a train of thought switch there. I wanted to start getting thicker, kind of like this one did. But it's really, I mean, it really is hard to kind of not make this look like somewhat like ruts in the snow. That's the kind of the wonderful thing about painting snow. There's, it's really just painting the shadows. You're not really painting a lot of the light area. A lot of that stays white, or it stays that really light pink that I have in there. Let me switch back to that number 6, so I can do a few more of these fine-tuned kind of little lines. So, and across like that. There's a whole slew of kind of stuff up in here. And again, I'm just kind of using the tip of the brush, the point. Across, just to give me some idea of where I want these ruts to be, the shadows from the ruts. Maybe there's a little bit over here, so it's kind of smooth along here, and then kind of gets something like that. I don't know. Some sort of, oops, I'm sure you can kind of see that. Some sort of bit right in there. Let's see, we got. I don't know if I like that line that I just made, but that's all right. So it's already starting to look a little flattened out because of that. And then once we start getting these shadows going across it this way, it'll look even more so. Yeah, but that's starting to work pretty well. I could even you know, I have this peacock blue. I could add a little bit of, let's see what happens when I add a little bit of opera to it. I get a bit of a light violet. I'll show you real quick. I put that down, but I didn't add that in there. This is, I got opera here and added a little opera, and it gave me this kind of very light violet there. I could even add a little of that in some spots, maybe where I want it, especially if it's still wet, which it's not really. So I'm going to add a little bit of that in there, and then I'm going to clean my brush and then let it kind of, I'm just going to use water right now. So that adds just a little more color variation in that shadow. Let's see, I'm going to add a little bit more, a little of that over here as well. Again, just dropping in a little, even if it doesn't blend in that well, that's okay. It's just a little bit on top. Kind of zoom in so you can see what I did. You can see it's just really subtle. Oops, let's get that in focus. And I just added a little more of that there. It does work better sometimes if you're doing this peacock blue. Let's say I'll make this just a wee bit darker. Let's see if I can get this to work. Sometimes it's kind of fun to, I'm just re-wetting this. Here. It's fun to just drop in some opera. So if I just drop in a little, let's get it on my brush, and it kind of displaces some of that peacock blue and gives you a little variation. I don't know that that is going to work that well because I had to re-wet this. If I had done it while it was still really wet, it would have worked better. But what I'm going to do is just add more water to let that kind of spread out and do its thing. So it's not just 3 little globs of opera. It's now kind of a long blob of opera. And then I'm going to pull it up into that little bit there. And maybe just a bit down into that. A little bit. Okay. And that just, again, that gives me that color variation. I think because the fans are on, it's my paper's drying a little faster than normal. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's not. Let's see. I know that there's going to be a few more shadows over here on the side of this kind of road. So I want to add, maybe some little bit of this. It looks kind of like it might be a rut, but it's not really. It's just kind of where maybe some snow got piled up, or something went through earlier and kind of made another rut, and then it snowed again or something. Or it could be that there are ruts built up underneath the snow in the mud, that's frozen now, and that's what's causing that. So any number of things can kind of cause this little bit of whatever is going on over here. All it is just color, and need to kind of look like shadows in the snow. That sounds like it should be an 80s ballad. Shadows in the snow. Or shadows in the sand. Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna add a little bit of kind of a shadow underneath this thing, and then this is going to kind of come out. Not too much. I have some other shadow there that's going to kind of come across, and then there's some bigger brushy things over here that are going to add some. Let's see. This is just going to kind of be shadow. Maybe that comes into there. So some of this will. Let me switch to a bigger brush. Some of this will, that sort of underlaying bit that I made will kind of disappear. Let's bring that across. So Yes. But to have, you kind of want that underneath, so you kind of know where you're smearing that with my fingers. So I just thought I'd pull that out a little bit more so it'll dry faster. Some of this is just a dark, it'll end up being texture underneath this shadow, and that's okay. And that kind of goes across like that. Really, this one is so big that I believe it's going to come across all the way. That shadow, maybe I'll come in now with a little of that opera, kind of like I talked about earlier. And we'll drop in a little here in some spots. There. This gives us that. I could even come in, I think I might even see what Andrew's turquoise would do just by itself, just to give myself another kind of variation in the color. So just a little bit of that Andrew's turquoise in there just makes that a little more interesting. So this comes in like that. When I get over here, I need to be a little careful about what I'm doing. So I'm just going to pull. So I switched back to peacock blue just because that's predominantly what I have here. I'm just going to, and really I need to switch to the smaller number 6 brush as well, just to give myself a nice good point. And then I'm going to just pull some of this down in between some of these light strokes that I have. Even if I kind of screw those up a little bit, it's not that important. But I want a little bit of that shadow kind of around this little clump of grassy stuff here. So it's kind of sticking up into, let's see, that's there. It's sticking up into the light, but it's sort of bases in a bit of shadow. That's kind of down in there. And you can see I'm not really drawing straight lines because snow is kind of clumpy. I didn't like that I just did, but snow, it's not perfectly flat. It's going to have little rises and there's a whole slew of deer footprints that go across there. I'm not going to paint those, but somebody who is interested in that kind of in a kind of wildlife kind of stuff, maybe you add a deer to this somewhere and with the tracks or something. You see one back here, small in the back. So just adding a bit more of that blue down in there. Then over here as well. Okay, this is where I can switch back to that bigger brush for a while. And actually, I think I'm going to use a little of the Andrew's turquoise back in here. I know I had the peacock blue, but I'm gonna do a little Andrew's turquoise. It's just a different cool light blue. Let me pick some of that up because I had a little too much. Bring that in like so. A little of that underneath this grassy area. Maybe that kind of comes out like so. Don't want too much. There's going to be kind of a little bit of a shadow right in here, maybe where there's like a hump. And that'll come in just light, It's not really dark. It doesn't need to be dark. It's just a little light wash of that Andrew's turquoise just along here to give some volume to that snow. That's all that is. A little volume. There. And then, so as we start getting down in here, there's going to be, there's some big bushes right over here. So there's going to be a fairly sizable shadow that comes across there as well. Let me kind of and some of this in here. Just like so. And you can see all I'm doing is kind of painting around those. I'll bring this down. You can see I'm kind of painting around these shapes that I've already, these lighter shapes with a little glue. Just like so. And where I feel like maybe it needs to be sculpted a little bit more, I can paint over the top of some of that. Even if it looks a little wonky or a little green, that's okay. Let's just throw in some of that there. And so I'm switching. So there I was kind of using the point of my brush. Now I've switched to using kind of the side of the brush just to get this texture. All I'm doing is kind of dry brushing it on. Again, it's not super important that it look just like the photo. This won't look just like my photo. Yours won't look just like the photo. I've never been able to paint something that looked exactly like the photo, and I like it that way because, if I wanted to paint it exactly like the photo, why? I have the photo. So that's my reasoning behind not painting super realistic and painting more in the, if I want it to look realistic, I will use a camera. Oop, Jackie. Oh, crap. Huh. Well, shoot, I hope she tries again. I turned around right as, and I think she logged back out. Let me try sending her an email really quick. Oh, there she goes. No, there we go. Okay.
Hey,
Hey, for a second there, I thought maybe I didn't turn around and see you trying to log in soon enough, but then you got back on there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Where was it? This seems a bit dark right in there, maybe. I'm just trying to lift some of that back out. Just got it wet, lifted it back out. But you can see I've just made these kind of interesting little dry brush marks with the side of my brush. It is, I do have water in my brush, but I'm not really painting a stroke. It's just kind of this little mound of, maybe there was a rut there at one point, and that's the shape that's underneath that. I kind of like that idea. We'll come in here with a little more. Maybe I'll switch back over to that Andrews turquoise. That's a lot of it. So I just put a streak down, and then I'll just add some more water. And we'll just add a little mini shadow in between there first. Sort of a light shadow, showing some texture. And then I can always come in, maybe there's another rut in between, something like that. Maybe this needs a little more darker area over here. I'm putting off, let's see, I'm going to erase. I have some little pencil lines there. I think they'll come off, maybe. No. I was sort of hoping they would, but it's all right. They'll get covered up by shadow. Well, that's a weird shape. How did that happen? I don't like that at all. There we go. I don't mind it. I think my brush kind of went like that when I looked at those lines. So that's just another little hump of that snow. It kind of comes up and then down and then into the rut. Maybe over here it starts to get a little more. Of course, some of that's going to get covered up with that bigger shadow, I know. So I'm going to see. Let's see. I'm going to come in with some more peacock blue down in here. Yeah, I'm going to start over here. Maybe that's too much. Over here. I'm going to blend that into that Andrews turquoise a little bit. So some little bits of shadow. Maybe there's little something, you know, causing a little dip there. I got carried away with it, the peacock blue there for a second. Okay, so this kind of come in like that. This, I need to straighten this out so it comes this way. But I'll do that with this. Okay, so this is gonna, here we've got some more kind of stuff in shadow. This is kind of, maybe what I'll do is add a little bit of this peacock blue to the grass here in some of these, so it looks like maybe the bottoms are in shape, so, or in shade, so that you know, I still have that, and it's that darker peacock blue against the white, and then I've got that kind of gold of the permanent yellow deep. Okay, so back to some peacock blue here. Just kind of pull that in, like so. And this is kind of sticking up into the light as well, so I kind of want to save as much of that as possible. And some of it, you know, it may not get saved, and that's okay. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be perfect. Because this is handmade. You know, it's just something that's done by hand, so it's not going to be. But maybe this, so this is going to kind of come out like a little more. Maybe there's some bit of shade like that. Just kind of making these kind of funky little shapes that look like indentions in the snow. And then this is all going to be in dark down here. So I'm going to actually add just a bit of that purple gray that I mixed up earlier today. I'm going to add a little of that down here. Pick up a little more of that. So that's just that dark blue, purpley blue, whatever that I used up in here. I want that to be down here. This will get a little bit, I think this is going to be in a little shade, so I'm just going to cover it with some of that as well. Holding a little peacock blue over that. And this is going to kind of come. So, and it doesn't, you know, it doesn't have to really totally make sense. We're just going to have a little of this kind of sticking up into some light area. But then the rest of this is going to come across. In fact, I'm going to switch to number 10 round brush. I think I'm going to use a little Andrews turquoise here. So I was using peacock. Now I'm going to switch to the Andrews turquoise. Down in here, grab a little of that. Here I feel like I need some more violet, so I'm going to add that down in here. So that all that is the slightly more violet, quinacridone violet blue mix versus the more blue than violet mix. So just want that a little darker. And then this I just want to kind of soften right in there. I want a little of that light popping up, but not a lot. A little of that. Maybe that whole thing gets covered up. And then this, so let's go back to that peacock blue. This is going to come across, maybe there's, there's a big shadow of some sort over here being cast by something. Doesn't matter what. And I want this to kind of have that kind of hump feel, so I'm just going to kind of do that. I should have left a little bit of white showing through some of that, but that's all right. Maybe there's another little bit of a shadow here. I'm just kind of making this follow some of that, the rut that's in there. Let me pull some of that back up into there for another little bit of a rut of some sort. And then over here, let's go back to some of this violet color. I don't more so just to kind of balance it out a little bit than anything. Maybe I'll use a little of that. I kind of like that. Maybe I'll bring some of that up into here in this area. And even down into there. But you can see it's starting to kind of look like a snowy road-ish. And that's really all we care about, that it kind of resembles a snow-covered road. I could speak today. A snow-covered road that has some ruts in it. Somebody drove down it. That somebody was me, and then I got stuck. Let's see. I want a little. I kind of like this. There's a little bit of this kind of shadow that comes off of this big shadow here. It kind of does a little side swipey looking thing like this, like maybe this grass or something over here is doing something interesting. There's a little bit of that. So I'm just going to kind of soften that edge that I've created there. It's still fairly wet. And then I'm just using the side of my brush, kind of dry brushing, pulling that up into that space. Maybe I want to do a little of that. Let me bring in a little more paint right in here, a little more water. I'll darken that up. Maybe I want some of that to happen there too. So there's something causing that to kind of wisp up like that. Whether it's the grass or it's something else entirely, I don't know. I don't care. I just like how it looks. Shadow doesn't necessarily have to follow anything. Tom Lynch is a big fan. If a shadow's not working in one direction, he'll put another shadow on top of it going another direction. And it works, even though you see a shadow, coming off of this bush going this way and another one coming this way. It works for the composition. So that's kind of the thing there to keep in mind. Okay, so I'm going to stop kind of playing with that for a second. I'm going to step back and take a look at it. For the most part, I'm pretty happy with it. I do want a little more, I have that pink underpainting in there, but it's almost turned to white now because there's so much of this darker blue on top of it. I am going to add, once this is dry, I'm going to come in and add a little bit of the gold, like a thin wash of the gold, not gold, but the gold, like the same kind of yellows that I've been using up in here. I'm going to add a little bit of a wash there. Yeah, let's see. How do I like how that's looking? It's not going to really matter much. I'm going to try to come in and get rid of this little line that's there that's bugging me. I mean, there could actually be a straight line on, you know, shadow from something or something that appears like a straight line. Let me grab a little more of this stuff down here. Bring that across. And maybe we'll just kind of come in with a few little bits that are this dark. Let's see. I kind of like what's going on with that. So I'm going to pick up a little more of that. I'm going to actually do some up in here as well. Some little bits of shadow. And I think I need a little bit more paint or water on my brush. It's a little too dry. Oh. So I'm just going to kind of pull up, you know, a little bit of shadow in a few spots. I don't know how well that one worked, but just add a couple of little tick marks of dark grass down in there. Maybe even I'm going to take some of that blue green, but that's leaning a little more to the green side that I used up here. I'm going to use a little of that, and maybe there's a bit of a green tint to some of this. So all I'm doing is just kind of adding a little more color variation to these little bits of tufts of grass. We'll add a little more dark down in here, so it doesn't look like that's just floating out of nothing. I mean, it's probably sticking out of the top of the snow, but I just want to ground it a little bit better. So let me just hint of that green. Yeah, that's starting to look like something. Let's bring some of this green down in here. I like what's going on with that. So this is really wet, which I don't mind the fact that it's wet. I won't get some of those shapes to actually become, you know, straight, or not straight, but little streaks of whatever. I won't get too many of them to actually stay, but some will. Let's just soften that whole bottom part there. And now let's work that into the peacock blue. Make that a little darker. So, and then just have that sort of fuzz out, sort of feather out into this later stuff. And that just adds a little more texture down there as well. Already that's kind of helping, just that little bit of road. I'm fairly happy with that. Yeah, I think I need to add a little of this kind of value change and color change down in here. That seems a little flat. It is fairly close to the edge of the paper, but I do want a little value change in there. So I'm just going to take some quinacridone violet by itself. You could use actually alizarin crimson or permanent magenta if you have that. I'm just going to kind of pull up some more of these little doodads. I don't know. Can you even see what I'm doing? My hands in the way. Let's come over here with this. And so all I'm doing is just kind of adding some little grass tick marks. Down in here. Like so. Now, again, I'm gonna put a pretty little, you know, a little bit of a blue mist over the top of that, so that detail is gonna kind of blend out later, and that's okay. I want it to kind of do that. You know, come in with a little of that green down in here as well, just to kind of get that to run into that violet. Move it in there. I had turquoise in there, but I kind of felt like maybe it needed a little bit of that green as well. Yeah, that's looking okay. Yeah, I think that's looking all right. Let's see, before I kind of I think I'm going to hit this with a dryer real quick. And that's still pretty well right there, but that shouldn't matter too much. Some of this actually would be in a little more shadow as well, but I'm not going to worry about that quite yet. Hey, Chris. Yeah, I'm not going to worry about that quite yet because some of that will happen naturally from that blue kind of vignette spray that I do around here. I think what I want to do, excuse me, pardon me, I don't know why I suddenly yawned. I want to, let's see, I need a little spot where I can. I need to get rid of that yellow-green mix that I made, or at least some of it. I want a little bit of a, dipping that into the, there we go. I want a little bit of that kind of golden glow that we've got, that light, that golden light that comes in from the sun there. And I want a little of that. I'm going to use my 1-inch flat for this, but I just want a little bit of the permanent yellow deep. I'm just going to take a little bit of it. You could use you could use Indian yellow for this. You could use quinacridone light orange or something, or maybe it's yellow. Maybe it's also a yellow deep. I can't remember how. Not quinacridone. Cadmium. I think cadmium orange yellow deep or some cadmium. Maybe it's cadmium yellow orange or something. It's very similar. But all I'm going to do, I've got a little wash of it there, but I really want mostly water. So I have mostly water in my brush. Let me put this back up in here, and I'm just going to do a really light. And if it's too much, I can go and pick it up with a bit of toilet paper or something. But I just want a little bit of a yellow glow right in there. Maybe just a bit more. Maybe coming in like that. Yeah, just a bit. And that's probably too much. So what I can do is come in with a little bit of toilet paper and kind of blot that back up in some spots. It's almost entirely gone. So maybe I've blotted too much up. But it was kind of really I don't know that I needed it right there, so I'm kind of going to blot it up a little bit. And maybe some against there, so gives it that kind of bit of a glow. And maybe just what I'm going to do is take a little of that, but add a little touch of, well, and what I can do actually also. So I added just a touch of the permanent yellow orange, which is very similar to cadmium orange. That is obviously too much, so I'm going to just come back in with the water and pick that back up. But I added a little bit of it, and maybe just a touch over here in a few spots. some higher spots maybe that are getting. That's what I really want to lift that back out. Maybe just a few higher spots over there that are getting a little bit of a glow. I like that better, I think. So just kind of, I lifted some of this back up, and I'm just going to add a bit more of that. And, oh well, these little spots are picking up a little bit more of a glow. They're a little higher than some of the surrounding snow. Maybe a little too much, so we'll just pick some of that back up. And then I can also come in while that's still a little damp with a bit of opera, just ever so slightly. That's too much. So what I can do is just add more water to it. Add a little. See, that's not enough. Add a little bit right in there. A couple spots just to add that color. Now I can tell that that's too much right there. So what I did was I just kind of twisted this toilet paper into kind of a long thin stick, and then I can kind of come along and move that around and pick some of that back up where there's maybe a little too much. Yeah. But I think that's enough of a little bit of a glow. I may come back and add some more later. I'm not sure, but I think that's not too shabby. I like that. Now I want to deal with some stuff up here again, and I also need to start thinking about more, shadow. Right now these are fairly flat. I mean, there's a little bit of volume to them from top to bottom, but not a lot. I mean, from bottom to top, I guess, or top to bottom works the same. But there's not a lot. It's just kind of a flat shape. So we want to deal with that a little bit. I kind of broke up the shape here and here and here and here, but otherwise these are all just kind of flat on there. So we want to deal with that. I'm not sure how happy I am with some of these tree arrangements. Maybe I need another little bit of tree right in there where I just painted some green. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what I think about that. There in a second. So I'm just kind of, what I'm doing is, I know you can't see me on camera, but I keep turning around looking at the image on my laptop because it's a really easy way of stepping back because I have the distance from here to where my head is. Plus, then if I turn, so I already have that distance built into the camera. And then if I turn and look, I'm even a little further away and I can see maybe what's working. This is a weird thing going on there. I'm not sure what I think about that yet. I gotta figure something out there because I'm not real crazy about that shape. Yeah. But I am happy with this snowy road. That I'm happy with. Okay. So let's think about it. So what I think I'm going to do while I'm thinking about these things, I'm going to come in with a little. What do I want to do? I'm going to come in with a little bit of maybe. Actually, I might use a little bit of burnt sienna up here, mixed with. So I have this little puddle of burnt sienna over here, which actually isn't really that big a puddle. It's just dried up. But I have some burnt sienna, added a little more to it. And I think I might bring it down here and just see what happens when I add a little permanent yellow deep to that. So it's just a wee bit lighter. Let me just pull in some more of that. Yeah, so it's a little bit, so you can see it's a little bit lighter than that. Even watered down, that's got a slightly reddish brown, this is a little more orange. And I'm going to use that, I think, as kind of a slightly muted version. of what's going on. I'm going to use some of that down up in here. So I'm just going to, I'll put that up here in the cradle, but let me zoom down. And all I'm doing is adding just a bit of the texture in some spots. I may have a little bit too much water in my brush. So let me just pick some of that back up. I just made a thirsty brush, and then, by wiping it. And all I'm doing is adding, and this is, again, this is just the first layer. All I'm adding is just a little bit of texture in the, in this kind of top of the bluff here. Just adding a little bit of here, stuff here and there. There's a little bit of shadow right in here. And then I can go back in and maybe I'll use a little alizarin crimson. Again, that's this one right here. It kind of looks, whoop, there we go. Alizarin crimson. Mine's gotten a little granulated, so let me just add a little more water to it so I can break up some of those granules. There we go. And I'm going to add, oops, trying to figure out where to put the camera. I'm going to add a little bit of that to some spots up in here. Just to kind of just to kind of give it a little more something going on where I feel like there's a little too much. I come back in and blot that a little bit with my toilet paper blob here, and that just gives it a little more texture. I do want a bit of a line there. I don't want to outline it necessarily, but I want a bit of, just in a few spots. I'm going to take some quinacridone violet, and I'm going to come in and just in a few little. See if I can do this so you can see what I'm doing. Just a few little spots where I kind of define that edge. Trying to paint like this is a little weird, but that's okay. Maybe there's a little more coming down over here. All that is I'm just adding a little bit of just a kind of a little bit of a definition to that edge. I don't want a lot of it, just a little bit, just enough to kind of see what I'm doing. I'm going to add a little bit more kind of dark detail in that shape, kind of break it up just a bit. A little line, and I'm just using up paint that violet that's in my brush. Yeah, okay, I'm happy with that. I could even maybe, well, I'm not going to do the top of that because that's where some sky is going to go. Kind of thinking I want kind of a stormy. In the photo, it's a blue sky. It was actually a fairly nice day when this happened. It was quite pleasant outside. Excuse me. Had I not been at a meeting, I probably would have been wearing shorts. That's how nice it was. Of course, I wear shorts year round, so that's not really saying much. Where was I? So I want to add some volume to this shrub. Anyway, the point I was making was I think I kind of want this kind of storm. I really like when you have this kind of storm buildup. This is just kind of one of the themes that I keep going back to because I'm really intrigued by how even if you have cloud cover that's covering you personally, if the sun dips down below that cloud cover, it comes in and brings in this nice wash of gold, warm light. And the sky can look super black and scary the other direction, but then you're getting this nice light coming in. It's just one of those things that I really like, and I like to paint it. So even though it's not in the photo, again, this is my painting. I can do what I want with it. Same with y'all's. If you want a blue sky, then I say by all means, don't paint the kind of sky that I'm painting. But I'm just putting a little more kind of pink color in a couple of spots. But that's kind of what I want to do. I want that dark sky back up there. I feel like it'll help really make this cliff pop. Okay, so these bushes, let's get to that first. I'm going to switch back to my number 8 brush, I think. And for this, you know, it's kind of a sagey brown, kind of funky color with a little gold. I think I'm gonna take some of that, what is this? Some of this, I'm just gonna unplug that really quick. I'm gonna take some of this burnt sienna that I have right here. And I'm gonna kind of play with it a little bit, maybe make just a slightly duller version. So you can see I kind of started something over here. I have a little violet next to it. I have a little of that green. So I'm going to take some of that burnt sienna, and I'm just going to start mixing in a little bit of the violet that I've got and a little bit of this dark green until I get kind of this slightly, almost a burnt umber or a burnt, what's the other look? I don't really use burnt umber, and because it's just another. I'm more of a fan of the brighter colors, so I figure I'll mix the darker ones. But that's what I've got, and really, I'm just taking a little. I don't know if I want it quite as burnt looking as I had it, so I added a little more burnt sienna to it. But it almost starts to look a little bit like an umber as we get going. And I'm just going to kind of, so I've got that. I want some more violet, obviously, so I'm going to just, that started to dry out. So I'm going to just add a little more right over in here. A little water to it. And yeah, I know I'm putting it on top of this color, but generally this palette allows, the color kind of floats on top of whatever else is there for the most part. I mean, I'll pick up a little of that blue and whatnot, and that's fine. It won't hurt anything. But let's see. And maybe I'll take a little royal blue over here. And I'll just drop that on top here of this green. So I've got a little of that. So I got the violet. I don't know if that's a big enough bunch. And even if it gets a little darker from some blue, that's okay. I've got that kind of umber color, which I think maybe now does need to be a little more. There we go. A little more umber, so I'll just pull in a little more of that dried blue mix there. And let's see what we're doing here. I think, okay, so I've got a number, I'm going to use this number 8 brush. That's what I'm using. It's a fairly decent point. And I'm going to, I think, start out with some of the violet first. Maybe think about, maybe this is going to be kind of shadowy area. So I'm just going to start sculpting this second. Like this is a smaller one that's a little more in shadow than this one. It's not quite as tall, so it's not catching that sun up here. So let me just bring in some of that violet first. Just kind of sculpting this side. This kind of wraps in with a little shadow. Maybe there's another little bunch over here. Maybe that pops up into a little scarlet lake or something here. Okay. So we'll just drop a little scarlet lake in there. I don't know how well you can see this. Let me just get that to kind of bleed a little bit like that with the water. I don't think that was Scarlet Lake. That was quinacridone rose, I think. Ooh. So let's pull that back out in here. I really let that kind of display some of that darker stuff. Add a little more water. I'll have to come in and kind of lift some of this back out as it starts to form that little bit of a line there. I don't quite want that much of a line. And then down in here, so I've got that, I'm going to use some of this burnt umber color that I kind of mixed up. And maybe we'll just kind of change some of the shape. Maybe this has got some little raggedy bits that it's kind of hard to see. There we go. Little bits coming up like that. Let's add a little of the blue down here into that, so that'll bleed up into there. Maybe get a little more. I don't know if I like. I just painted over something I really liked, and that kind of frustrated me. But I'll get over it. It's all right. It's not the end of the world. It's such a small detail that. Yeah, so some of that blue down in there. What I really need is to differentiate this stuff from this stuff. And I think what I need to do that. Actually, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to do something different than what I was thinking. So I'll tell you about that in a second. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of keep with that. Maybe a little more blue to that umber mix down in here. So I'm going to just add a little bit of, kind of shape to this. Maybe that's a little twig kind of thing coming off from whatever. Just down in there. That was, I added a little more blue to that umber mix. And then now I'm going to just kind of come in with a little bits of violet. And then what I really think I need is actually some more of this orange and yellow thing that's going on. That'll kind of help you. Just kind of see what happens there. I don't know if I like that, but you know what we have to tell ourselves when we don't like something necessarily is that we're just practicing. So this painting may not turn out to be what I want, but the next one might. And I'll learn something from this one that I didn't know, or I'll relearn something that maybe I knew, like, oh, you shouldn't really do this with that. But I have to reserve judgment until I didn't like those shapes that I painted, so I'm just adding a bit more violet to that to just kind of help with that. Now this shadow, this bush back here is more in shadow, so I'm going to come in with kind of a dark blue green. I've taken that royal blue here, and I'm going to add a little hooker's green I think I picked it up too much, so I'm going to just drop some in there and then a little more royal blue. Yeah, and then maybe just push in a little of that raw sienna, or burnt sienna, I'm sorry. Let's just pull in a little of that. There we go. That's kind of what I'm looking for. Yep. Okay. So this one down in here, definitely a little dark. You know, it's more in shadow, so I want to take this kind of dark down in there. I think I'm going to switch to my number 6 brush, just because it's a little smaller for down in here. Just kind of dark, shadowy area down here. And then what I think I'm going to do is bring in a little peacock blue up here at the top, and sort of let that. I know that that's looking weird right at the beginning, right at the moment, but I'm just going to add a whole heap of water. I just plopped some of the paint down on there, and I'm adding a whole lot of water just to light, you know, thin that wash down a little bit. Okay. I don't like this little line that I've got here, so I'm just going to work until I can kind of get that out. I want that to be a little bit brighter than it was, so I'm just going to add some water to that and then take my Kleenex or paper, toilet paper, whatever that is, and kind of lift that back up. And then I think I'm going to come in with a little permanent yellow just to see what happens. Or lemon yellow, sorry. And that actually looks a little green. I may have a little green in my palette, but that's okay for this, I think. But see how that just added that? I lifted that back out and added just a little pop of that yellow, and that really brightened that bush up a little bit. So I think that I'm happy with that. I had that weird line there, so I just lifted some of that back out. Up here in the upper area, maybe I'll add just a little bit of the permanent yellow deep. I don't want too much of it, just a little bit. So I want that lemon yellow that was already there to kind of dominate that. But then I want it to kind of come into this yellow here. So I'll just add a little more of that. And I like that. A little bit better. I've got a little of that going on up here that I don't really care for. I'm not sure that I can fix it, but let me try. I'm going to get a little fresh toilet paper here. Kind of lift that back out. See you, Chris. So I've lifted that back out. And I'm going to go back in with a little lemon yellow. And it has a little bit of a green tint to it, which I don't mind for this particular. Sometimes you don't want that, but I've gotten a little green in my. I kind of think I need to clean out this and add fresh paint in my lemon yellow, but I hate to waste paint, so there's that. That helps a little bit. And a whole slew of water. Get that to do its thing. And then pick up some of that. Right now, there's a kind of a glare there, so it's a little hard to tell on screen what's happening. Let's see if I kind of move that over. Now there's still a bit of glare, but not as bad. There's this line right there that really is bugging me, and I want to take that out. And then I want to get back to this kind of dark blue stuff over in here. Since that's still a little wet right there, I kind of want it to I want it to bleed up a little bit, so I'm just going to gently add a little of that back in and then pull it up with water. So I just added a little bit of that dark blue umbery color, and then we'll just have that kind of come up into there. Yeah, I like it. I think I'm going to add just a bit of opera to display some of that super dark stuff, just to make it interesting. There we go. I plopped a little in there. It's a little hard to see, so let me just show you. Right now, I just have these kind of three little opera dots. But once I add some water, they'll displace a little bit of that dark, which I want. And just make that a little more vibrant. Yeah. I'm happy with that. This, I feel, is a little weird. It looks like that little shadow right there is a little weird, so I want to take just a bit of this dark. I put a little blob of it there, and then I'm just going to kind of soften that about with around with water, just to darken that little spot right there. It's supposed to be in shadow, I think, or a little bit of a shadow right there. Not that it's supposed to be, but I feel like it needs to be, is what I'm really kind of saying. So add a little violet to that as well. And we'll let that kind of do its thing. All right. I do have to say the road's one of my favorite parts of this. I think mainly because it's just, I don't know, there's less paint on it. I think I kind of overworked this in my attempts to make it a little better and more interesting. I'm going to just kind of lift some of this back out here. I'm going to take that back to a slightly brighter bit. I don't think I'm going to add any color. I'm just going to lighten it. Let's go back to that. Yeah. I think that helps a bit. It's going to add a little light contrast in here that I want. I do want to take this in some spots just a little bit darker, so I'm going to grab some indigo and mix it with that dark green blue that I made. So it's mostly going to be indigo. I'll show you what I'm talking about. It's right here. And I'm just going to make, maybe I'll just kind of paint this kind of dark, not kind of looking thing that's coming up in there. It doesn't have to be exact. There's another little bit of something going on here. I just want to take this, I just want this contrast to be just a bit more right in here. Yeah. As well as over here, I want just a little bit more dark. Maybe there's this little kind of bit of dark right in there. It's hard to see. There's not a lot going on. There's just, I'm just adding a little bit more dark and texture with this kind of blue-green mix. Let's see. I'll show you. You can kind of see those little marks that I made there. These, I just dropped in a little more dark in a couple of spots. There. Maybe this will come all the way down. So that tree is overlapping that one. And I'll just sort of sculpt the side of that there. And I do feel like maybe I need something. I need more of a dark tree over here to kind of help with this. And I'm still on the fence about what's going on here. So I'm just going to bring some of that dark back around over here, sculpt that. It goes in behind there. Let's add a little more dark to this. And again, this is that dark green. I used indigo with Hooker's green, and there was some royal blue still in there. But basically, it's indigo and Hooker's green that I mixed that with. Give me that. Let's bring some more dark up into there. I don't want to outline this thing. I'm just making shapes that help define that edge, but you'll notice I didn't paint all of that. I let there be a little lost edge there. A little more dark over in here. That's a little more outlined than I want, but it's not really a line. You know, I haven't gone in and made this kind of a shape around it. It's a big kind of swath of green, dark that gradually moves to somewhat lighter green. So a dark green that moves to slightly lighter green. And honestly, I feel like this sort of wants to be one of those bush, those pinyon trees, even though I'm not sure that's what I want it to be. I'm gonna have to think about that for a little while and leave it alone, maybe. Let me think about it. I've got some kind of weird, like, whoa, hello. I've got some weird, like this shape here feels very similar to this shape. So I kind of need to figure that out. But that's okay. And so I want a little more of this this kind of burnt. That's kind of a blue-green mix. I want a little down in here. Maybe there's some kind of grassy-looking bits down in here. Also, some dark darks. Maybe there's some more little bits that kind of come up like that, yeah. That breaks up that shape a little bit for me. Let me, before I want to switch to a different color. So that was that kind of green, dark green, brownish blue thing. I'm going to switch to a little violet that has just a bit of the blue mixed in, and just so I have a little variation in color. There. Maybe there's a little dark violet up in here. Maybe I'm going to grab a little Scarlet Lake, I think. Maybe this part. And you don't necessarily, you don't need Scarlet Lake. Maybe a little opera instead. A little red, just a little red. Scarlet Lake's just a little bit orange in the red spectrum versus a red, like an actual red. So that just is why I like to use it. But if you don't have Scarlet Lake, a nice little bit of red right up in there might be interesting. Just so you have some variation. I've got that purple. I kind of let that dilute out, or it's kind of a purpley violet thing. Like that. Maybe I'll come in with a little opera as well. Just come in some spots. add more water. Because I don't want them to look like just little blobs of color that I plop down in there. I want them to actually. And then I've got a line here of yellow that I want to soften into that white. There we go. That's kind of interesting. Probably in the wrong spot, but that's all right. What am I doing? Okay, I've got that broken up. It's a weird, you know, just kind of goes. So I want to break that upward motion. Maybe we'll just add a little. You know, I still want it to kind of go up, but I also want it to not just be a straight line. So I'm going to pull a little bit down in there. Maybe I've got some more. This kind of violet down in here. It's texture. What I'll do here, because that's so dark, is I'm going to go back in and add a little, you know, I'm going to lift a little out of that too. And a little more dark right in there. Maybe I'll have that kind of blue in there a little bit in some spots. And again, I can come back in and lift some of that out as well. I didn't particularly care for that first go round of little grassy things. So I decided to change that. Let's now go back to that quinacridone violet. Pull that in. This is going to be a little bit of a shadow, but a little bit warmer shadow over here. Like that, just adding, putting paint down and then adding water to it and then moving it around a little bit. There we go. That's really what I'm doing here. I'm not too unhappy with that. I think this is going to be a really big blob of dark. And I'm going to have to add some more darks here as well. And maybe even a little bit down in here, a little bit more down in here. But let's see, actually, some violet up in here. But it'll be a little too heavy, so I can, what I'll do is I'll go back in and lift some of that back out using that kind of fake calligraphy technique we've done before, where, you know, I just paint little, I just paint little squiggly things in water and then lift it out. I also want to give this an opportunity to do any kind of blossoms it wants to do. So that I don't like. I've got two weird little lines there. I think we're just going to take those out and make it one big kind of shape. That's better. Maybe. Yeah, that's better. I like that. And I like how this bleeds into that and disappears. I'm going to try and save that. It'll get covered up a little bit later, but not by much. But I like that kind of lost and found edge. I wish I had a few more of it. Well, this one kind of happens over here. If I do a little lifting right here, I can get a little bit of that going on there, which I kind of dig. So it's kind of, you know, a separate thing, but not. Okay, so back to this. I need to add, you know, I've added these darks in there. This one definitely needs to be a little darker. The rest I think are okay. This I may need a little bit. I don't know about these yet. This may need a little bit more dark back in there, or maybe not. Maybe it'll just, maybe I kind of like it the way it is. I'm still kind of thinking on that one. I do not like that shape. I'm just going to get rid of it. I don't know if I like the shape that happened after. Maybe I just need to lift some of this off. We'll see. This is a weird shape to me, but I'll come back to it. Maybe it just needs a little bit. I think that light area just needs to be knocked down just a bit. I like the fact that it's catching a little bit of light, but not too much. So we'll see what happens there. And then actually maybe to fix that, add, this is, I'm going to take a little of the quinacridone violet and mix in a little of that, the blue. And I'm just going to kind of come over here and see what happens when I kind of do that and let it do its own thing. That is really dark, I know, but add a little water to it. Let it kind of do its thing, see what happens. Maybe it's too much, maybe it's not. But again, I'll lift some of this dark out. And it does, looking at it on screen, it's not quite as interesting looking as in person. So that's unfortunate. All right, so I want to deal with this. I want to add a little dark to that. I keep saying that, but now I do. So I'm going to take the quinacridone violet, and I've got some of this kind of blue muck over here. It's indigo, I can tell. And I'm just going to add a little of this quinacridone violet to that. I got a nice deep violet there. Happy with that. And I think I'm going to use that for a little bit. I'm probably going to use some of that green as well. But I want to come in here. And first I want to add, I'm just kind of adding these shadows. I'm painting the shadow to kind of get this grass shape, kind of keep this grass shape in a few spots. And I'm kind of having into the stroke where it's pointiest. I'm doing a reverse kind of thing. So I'm making that a little bit of point. And then as I come up in here, then I can soften it. Let's see, a big sharp or a big blob of color right there. So we'll just kind of do that. Maybe I'm going to switch over to some of this dark green. Over here. And a little of that. Right. Yeah. Just darken that up a little bit. Got that value. I think that, let's see, I need to bring in a little, I'm going to try a little permanent magenta, I think. So that's a little bit lighter version of the quinacridone violet. And I'm just going to bring in some of that up in here to kind of ease into some of these lighter areas. I have a nice transition. When it dries, I'll probably come in and soften this line. I want to kind of save that line light green that I have right there, but I don't necessarily want this line. Let's see if I can lighten it up a little bit into that. But I like that little pop of green right in there, light green. This can be just a little bit of shadow or something. I don't want a whole lot of detail over here again because it's right next to the edge of the paper. But I do want some. I think I'm going to pull in a little more of that as well into here. Just kind of give these grass blades a little bit of that quinacridone, permanent magenta as well. And then way down here, I'm going to pull in that dark purple, just kind of ever so slightly. on the edge of some of that. Like so, so it kind of blends into this whole thing. And let's add a little more of that as well over here. So that's that dark purple, and then I'm going to come in with a little quinacridone violet. Not quinacridone, permanent magenta. Geez, sorry. Permanent magenta. Well, that just kind of gives a little, you know, when grass is in the winter, they you know, the top seed little pods start to look violet and kind of pink and purple. And that's really what this is kind of mimicking in my head. Just by adding that little bit of color to a few of these spots, just to kind of change that up a bit. I like how that looks with that dark green, so I think I'm going to come in here with a little of that. Or in here, sharpen up some of these little shadows just a bit. So maybe come in with a little of that violet as well, that dark violet. A little bit of that. And then back into, let's go with some of that green. And here, over here. Some of that dark violet. Okay. That's okay. I'm happy with that, I think. I'm going to stop. Let's do the sky. Let's see, what time is it? 8:30. Let's do the sky. So I'm going to flip this around. There's not a lot of sky in this, so it's not a lot of, oh, that's way over here. Let's see if I can deal with that. Whoa, dang it, cancel. Come on, you can do it. Get up there. Wow, okay. Not really doing, oh, maybe if I do this. What do you think of that? Nope, that thing's in the way. Okay. Sorry, guys. I just taped this on my board weird. And now I'm covering up part of my paint. That's okay. I'll just deal with that. Okay, so there's not a lot of sky to this. So, you know, it's not going to take a lot, I think, to kind of get this to do what I want. So I'm just going to, maybe what I need to do is just kind of see if I can't slide this guy over here. There we go. Wow, it's not gripping very tight anymore. There. That's a little bit better. There we go. Okay. Okay, now I can get to most of my paint or all of my paint. And, all right, so I'm gonna do this sky. There's not, like I said, there's not a lot to it, so it won't take much. I'm just gonna come in with some water. So I'll figure out what's going on there. Afterwards, water. Okay. I think I got enough on there. I'm going to start with a little peacock blue. just so I get that sky color back behind there, even if I end up making it much darker. I'm going to pull that in like so. And carefully kind of follow that line. Because I do want that little sliver of land, top to look nice there. Let's see. Pull in a little color down here. Coming around that shape. So, all right, so I've got, pull some of this over. I'm not too worried about, sculpting these trees at the top. If they get a little covered up by sky, that's okay. They're just kind of up there. Okay, so I got that. I do think I want a little bit of a cloud kind of thing going on. Whoa, I just stuck my finger in a whole lot of green. How did that happen? Let me check that out. I put it all over my roll of toilet paper. So I won't be using that bit of toilet paper. All right, I'm going to get my cloud maker bit. And I'll start thinking about, let's see. Don't want any little white line kind of thing showing up. Okay, so there's not going to be a lot of cloud in this, but I just want like a little bit down in here, maybe like the bottom of a cloud or something, up in there. So I'm just going to kind of pick that up and see what happens. Just a bit over here. The rest of this is going to be kind of dark, I think. I'm just kind of moving it around so I have clean toilet paper area. Yeah, okay. And I'm going to go ahead and switch to a round brush now. I'm going to come back in with Peacock again, and I'm just going to kind of, I have this idea of this sort of bottom of the cloud down there, which may not end up looking quite like what I'm putting in there, but I want a little darker blue right in there, I think. This kind of look like. Yeah, okay, that's okay. This I'm going to kind of leave as is. In fact, I'm going to cover that back up. Because over here, I can already tell I'm going to want to bring in, I've got this peacock blue, but I'm going to come in with some royal blue down in here, I think, and really start to darken this up a little bit. While that's still kind of wet, I know this is going to be kind of dark up in there. Ooh, that even. Let's see what happens. Let's see. Maybe I want this to be kind of dark down here as well. I don't want it super dark right next to that, but I do want a little bit of dark down in here. I need to be careful right over here where it starts to get. And I don't mind if a little of that kind of bleeds into it and I lose a little bit of that line, but I still want just a touch of it. That's kind of interesting. Let's pull that. I'm going to pull some of that blue out into here so it's not just a big glob right there. I like how that actually changed the shape of this bush thing. Kind of happy with that. Let's see here. I'm going to bring in some kind of cloud shadows down here. I think this actually may end up. I'm going to flip this over. because I'm having trouble visualizing, making it look like what I'm thinking. Okay, so let's move that back over like so. I'm having trouble seeing it upside down, which normally I can, but today for some reason something is working in my head. Okay, so let's see. I got this one. That's why that's supposed to get that. Let me just kind of, I don't like that shape there. I think this is all going to be pretty dark up in there. I'm going to bring in actually a little more royal blue to that green blue mix that I made. And I want to add a little of that up in here. I think that'll help this cliff face pop quite a bit. As well as some of this. Just kind of bring that in. So I'm just adding that dark blue green now to some spots. Even drop in a little up in here. And let's get that to run a little bit. We'll get a softer edge right there. And this cloud. Here in a second, once some of this dries a little bit, I'm going to add a little more color to this cloud. And it doesn't really need to look like much of anything other than, just kind of a dark sky back in here. I like that. That needs to be a bit darker sky right in there. So I'm going to just come in with that blue green, dark blue green. So it's a lot of royal blue added to that dark blue green that I made. It's a little more on the blue side. You can see there's still some lighter areas up in here. I'm going to just add a little water and pick some of that up because I liked it the way it went the first time. I touched it again and I shouldn't have. Just add a little more color. I like how some of that is light back in there. That's kind of neat the way that worked out. I would like to take full credit for it, but a lot of it was luck. But if someone were to comment on it at a show, I would take full credit. And I expect if you guys have happy accidents like that happen for you, you also should take full credit for it. When somebody says, "Oh, I really like how that sky looks," just say thank you, even if it was accidental. So let's bring in more of that color. Let's see, over here, I want this to just kind of be soft. Yeah, there we go. These are just going to be, kind of a small little cloud back. Well, the top of a small little, not even a small cloud. It's just a far away cloud. That's, I think, what I'm trying to. And so there's not a lot of it visible. Let me take a smaller bit of this. Kind of see if I can't soften some of it back up. And a little bit more contrast right on that. Up in there. All right, not too shabby. This is a little sharp, this line here. I don't think I need that sharp of a line right there. Let me come in with a little of that dark green blue. I'm just going to drop in a whole heap of that right there and then let it run down into some of this other stuff. So that I don't have a particular sharp edge right there. It's going to be a little bit softer. I'm just going to get it kind of, I'm picking up my board and holding it kind of at an angle to get a little bit of that to run. There we go. Yep, I like that. I didn't like that sharp edge. Now it's a soft edge. It's a pretty dark contrast, so I'll probably have to add a little more paint over in here later. And I may even do a little of this. Just to kind of, that's all right. And then I want some kind of dark under the cloud bits here. That are gonna, maybe there's a little bit of rain or like a cloud burst back over here. It's gonna kind of come this way. That's too dark. Let's bring a little of this up into here. And it's kind of the bottom of the cloud. Let's pick some of that back up. And then what I'm going to do is take my number 6 brush, get a nice little point, and I'm going to just try and pull a little of this down just to kind of mimic, while it's still wet, I'm just kind of, let me get the camera down there so you can see. I'm just kind of pulling a little bit of that down to kind of give that impression that there's a little, and I can cut late here in a little bit, I can add a little more dark here and there, lift out some more, but you see how that just adds just that hint of maybe a little bit of a rain cloud, cloud burst happening over there. Let's get some of that out, because then I can add a little more dark into it. When it dries, I'm just going to do a little dry brushing with the side of my brush while I'm kind of waiting for that to dry, and it just adds a little texture to this cloud right here. And again, I mean, this doesn't necessarily look like any cloud in real life. It certainly doesn't look like the sky that is in the photo. Let me add a little more dark over here to try to get that to blend in and look a little more natural. Let's kind of scope that a little bit. Pull that up in there. A little more texture will come in. I'm going to dry my brush off. I cleaned it, and I'm going to dry it, and then I'm going to just kind of drag it sideways through some of that dark. And you see it just adds ever so slight amount of texture. I can pull some of that dark down into here. So I was holding my brush like this and kind of dragging it through, like so, kind of dry brushing it. That's what I was doing. And then I can pick my brush back up and add, pull in a little, just use the point of the brush a little bit to kind of move some of that paint around. I feel like this needs to be a whole lot darker. And then here. It's kind of, yeah, I think that's all right. So let's see how dry this is. And I don't mind if it's still a little fuzzy wet, and some of this fuzz, it gets a little fuzzy. let me make my point a little bit better. I'm just gonna roll the brush on the palette so I get a nice sharper point. So some of that looks kind of crappy because it is so soft. But again, I don't want it to. I'm going to set it up here real quick. I don't want it too much, so I can come back in and soften it even more. There we go, and get a little bit more of that hazy. So I don't mind a few little sharp areas. That wasn't fuzzy enough, but by adding just a wee bit more water, I make it a little bit more fuzzy. And then it looks like a cloudburst back there behind the bluff. Yeah. Let me zoom in on that a little bit. So there's a bit of a glare from the water, the water being wet, the light hitting it, but you can kind of, there we go. You can kind of see that looks like a little bit of a cloudburst, not a lot. Don't need to go into too much detail. I just want this dark sky back there. Let's see. I feel like this got a little out of control over here. It was a happy accident that I kind of made into an unhappy accident right there. That was my fault. So I will take credit for the mistake as much as the happy accident. So let me just kind of a weird line there that I didn't care for, so I'm just going to paint over it. Bring that cliff face down a little bit, and that's okay. Let's see. Just kind of I got a line there that I don't care for, so I'm just going to come in and soften that. See what happens. These are all, there's a little bit of a line there that I don't really care for. Just soften it as well. Yeah. So I got this nice kind of interesting bright cloud there close to my area of interest. I'm not sure that I'm completely like 100% done with this, but we're so close to the end of the class. I kind of want, so we're definitely going to start another painting next week, but I kind of want to think about this for a week as well. So we may come back. I mean, this is close. It's close. I do need to do, a fair amount of this kind of stuff, just kind of, or even just adding little random dots in there and breaking up some of these darks a little bit. That's a little better. So over here, maybe I'll just add a few little grassy streaks in there. Let that sit for a second. Blot it up. Now I've added those back in, but they do need a little sculpting as well. I gotta stop sticking my brushes in my mouth. I keep chewing off paint. You can see it ends up in my mouth. Let me bring few little, kind of break this up a little bit. I went overboard there. I may not have done enough here. Yeah, a little bit. Let's see. So I want to do a little bit of that, a little lifting in here. little overcorrect, that was an overcorrection and then a second overcorrection in the lifting. So I want to kind of go back in and kind of fiddle around with that a little bit. So what I'm thinking is we'll start a new painting next week, but we may kind of do a little finishing touch on this to kind of really bring it home. But why don't we stop here? Because, well, it's 5 to 9, and let me look at y'all's and kind of see where you're at, and maybe give you some thoughts. What do you guys think?
I'm not ready yet. I'm still pretty far behind, so maybe next week.
Okay. Okay.
I'm pretty far behind too,
Okay. Well,
but
do we just
I'll let you look at it. You can give me some suggestions because.
well, yeah, that's what that's really all that's really what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't we, you want to do that then?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of quit because I was just too far behind. I wasn't catching up.
Oh, okay. Well, that's okay. Let me look at it and see if I can give you some suggestions. And
All right, that sounds like a plan. Let me get my,
all right, let me make you the spotlight. Oh, see, now that's looking pretty good. Let me take a quick screenshot.
and let me get it stable.
Right on. Ooh, that's good right there. All right, got it. Let's see, where did that go? Oh, I need to close that. I need to open that. Okay, so it's a little blurry, but not bad at
Okay.
all. So let me just crop out the extra stuff here. And share screen. That's what I need to do. Yeah, see, I think you're okay. So I think this is coming along nicely. Actually, I think, I mean, I think once you add in a sky up in here, that will really help make this pop more.
Well, I've got to put more color in it.
Yeah, I think
the whole thing needs work on.
Yeah, but you've got a good thing going on with this snowy road. That's nice. I like what you've done there. These little sort of lighter shadows here where it's just maybe little lower spots in the snow. That looks really nice. All of this is quite nice. You could go in and break up some of these darks like I'm trying to do now with a little bit of either spritzing some water on either, with a toothbrush or spray bottle or whatever, or doing some of that fake calligraphy kind of thing.
Right.
Try a little of that, just to break it up because it is a little heavy. Although I think, if you decide you want to put in a kind of a stormy sky up in here, I think that'll help with that.
Okay.
But yeah, I think, just a wee bit more variation, kind of gradation between, the super dark to the light, just a little bit more of that. This is looking pretty good right in here.
Yeah, I started that and then I thought you needed to move to something else. I'm gonna plan on coming back and picking up, try to do some more. Try to finish it.
Right, yeah. Well, even, mine, there's a couple of things on mine I'm not too happy with. I like how you've sort of and I don't know if it was on purpose or not, but you ended up kind of avoiding some of the issues that I'm having with mine by making, by your tree placement and the way you've put in your kind of bushes and stuff. I don't know that I am happy with my solution. I do like how you know, this is the only place you really see this slope, and I think that's all that's really necessary.
Okay,
So I like what you've done here. I may decide I want to go back in and add, you know, just make those trees bigger back in there. You know, those pinon trees and juniper trees and whatnot. So I think what you're doing here is nice. You've got, these are a little bit like too regular. One, two.
okay.
See how that, so what I would do is connect a few of them.
Oh, okay.
You know, maybe connect like these two or maybe these three. Maybe connect these two here, and maybe this. I don't think that's a little tree there, but maybe make this one. What it is really is they're all the same. They're all the same height and the same shape and the same size.
Okay.
So I think by let me just that's what I'm looking for. I'm just going to use this dark green, but I think if you, let's see, how would I might actually, what I might do is just make, so I'm using a dark green, but you know that this is just representing the shape and not the color, right?
Yeah.
This would still be light. This will still be lighter green over here. You know, that's just kind of a shape. Maybe this is, maybe just combine these two so into kind of that shape. So bring bring the light green. That's really supposed to be light green. So I'm just really kind of talking about a shape. Maybe just change the shape of this one ever so slightly to be like more like, you know, kind of come down into that area a little bit.
Oh, okay.
These all kind of look a little too predictable, a little too triangular.
Well, I thought pyramids would look pretty good on top of the mountain there.
Well, you know,
Don't you
maybe
think? They look like
maybe-
pyramids.
yeah, maybe they're the you know, lost New Mexico pyramids.
Right. We do live in New Mexico.
That's right. So you know, just kind of change these shapes up maybe a little bit so they're not all, what really all it is they're about the same size, they're about the same shape, and they're really regularly placed.
Right.
So just by changing up that shape, you know, maybe, I don't know, maybe this even comes in, you know, kind of like that or something.
Yeah.
I'm doing a terrible job of drawing, but you get the idea. The fact that they're
Right.
all about the same height doesn't bother me so much because, you know, what I might do is bring, you know, like one of these kind of up higher a little bit, maybe bring this guy up a little bit. That's not a very good shape that I've drawn there, but you get the kind of, you know, so you get a little more variation. But what it was is, you know, you got a little triangle here, a little triangle, little triangle, little triangle. You know, when we look at it without the, you know, they ended up being two perfect little placed. Yeah.
Right.
Whereas if you just kind of change up that shape a little bit, that'll help out.
Okay.
But I think you're on the right track.
All right. I'll keep working on it then.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else want me to look at theirs before we kind of, well, I see some people have already gone to bed. We lost a couple of people.
I'm gonna read mine.
Okay.
Yeah, I had trouble with my shrubs. Here we go.
You had trouble with your shrubs?
Shrubs.
Oh yeah. Ooh, look at that though. Isn't that pretty? Pull it back just a wee bit more away from the camera. Perfect. Right there. Hold it still. Got it. Okay. Let's go in there. I'm looking for Photoshop. Okay. Excess stuff we don't need, like, oops. Mm. Okay, so screen share. Share. All right. So
Looks
Uh,
good.
yeah, I think this looks nice. So what do you like in this area? Was this where you were having some trouble?
Ones to the right are just orange and I mean yellow to the far right. Start
Yeah,
from
right in here.
I guess that's okay because that's supposed to be further away, but the one right kind of in the middle that looks green. Yes.
This one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's kind of weird.
yeah. What you could do is try to lift out a little bit. Let's see if I can. I don't know how. Let's see. Let me just grab a little. It'll probably end up looking more like that, which is a gross color, but it wouldn't really be that color. If you could lift out a little bit, like, yeah, that's not even the right color. I just sampled a color. I think it'd be lighter than that. Let me
Uh-huh.
lighter version.
Actually, that used to be one big one, and then you had smaller ones, so I tried to make it into 3 smaller ones.
Oh yeah, I'm
Oh,
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure you necessarily need to do that with this one. The one thing that kind of bothers. So let me just get rid of this for a second. The one thing, okay, actually, I don't. Instead of doing what I just did, so let me just get rid of that because I don't like my solution. So let me just look at this again. So instead of what I just said, what I would do, well, let's get rid of that. Okay, how do you get rid of it? Yeah. Select, deselect. There we go. Couldn't remember the quick key. What I would do maybe is just because you have this perfectly round kind of shape here, this is a kind of a good shape, but then you have this straight line and then it goes with a really nice round shape there. Only in this case, we don't really want a really nice round shape. We want kind of more of a varied shape. So what I would do is maybe actually just pull some of this dark that you've got over here and change the shape of that. So I don't know what this, this dark back here. So I would just make that a little bit like that. And then same with this, what am I looking for? This green, same with the green, just kind of break this shape up, bring some of this down. I'm not doing a very good job because it's really hard to, but you see how I've changed that shape. It's slightly more interesting.
yes, okay.
And then just kind of feather this out. What you can do is also lift some of this dark out and I made that pretty thick right there. Or, I made a pretty straight line. So I would just kind of fuzz it, blend it. That's the word I'm looking for. I would blend that a little bit better. So,
Look lower. So there's space between the bluff and the shrubs and
these bushes. Yeah. And really all that you could turn, this could just, nobody really, it doesn't really matter what this is. That could be a shadow from this group of bushes over here. The other thing I might do is kind of just break out these darks just a little bit by lifting, doing that squiggly thing that I was doing, because these are pretty big dark areas. So come in and break some of that up by just putting some water down in varied patterns, or doing a little spray of water. I think I've got a brush that kind of mimics that. Let me see if this will work. So if I kind of,
oh yeah.
well, you kind of see the varied dot pattern with the brush. I can't really, for some reason, get it to do anything. I don't know why. I'm probably on the, I don't know.
Or maybe
But you see how that's varied. So if you spritz a little water on there, either with like a toothbrush or whatever, and then let it sit for a second and then lift it, you'll get some really nice dot patterns that'll kind of break up some of these darks. I don't know why that's not letting me. Maybe I just don't have a.
Okay. I don't know what
strength is 50%.
dark a camera, from what I'm seeing on the camera, it looks so much darker than what it really is.
Oh yeah, and that is probably just the way. Yeah, mine is the same way. It looks way darker. So this may not be quite as dark as what I'm seeing.
Right.
Yeah. So, but I still would kind of break this up just a bit because it is a really large, dark shape.
Yeah.
So I think if you just spritz some water on it, even if you dipped your finger in water and just kind of flicked it on there, that might help. I don't know why I can't get this brush to work.
Yeah. No, I get the
Oh,
picture
there
though.
it goes. It's kind of doing something there, but probably because I don't have any paint on this layer. Probably that's probably why.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Oh, I just had all kinds of trouble with the shrubs. They looked okay when I colored them the pastel color.
oh shoot, and then you followed me
But
and then you followed me and changed it.
then when I start to darken, that's when I really mess up.
Yeah. I think maybe just kind of ease. So this is a problem I have a lot of times. I want to go real dark real fast. And I have to see, oh, well, that's not very good, but
Yes.
now I got the brush to work for some reason. Well, it's a different brush. I have a tendency to want to go really dark really fast. And I have to stop myself. In fact, there were a couple of times when I did go too dark too fast on this. And I think that might be the problem. Kind of ease into that dark and build it up
Yes.
is really what you want to do. Just kind of
Out on the left side, it looks like it's black there, but it's not really. It's like a grayish purple.
yeah, I can see the little bit of purple right here, and then it comes down in here. On my monitor here, it's a little bit lighter than probably what you're seeing. But just because I've kind of I don't really have this monitor calibrated, but I've kind of calibrated it a little bit. Fiddled with the color so it looks a little closer to real. My laptop monitor, on the other hand, not so much. But which is where I normally see my painting.
Yeah.
So I can tell that this is, you've got this nice kind of mauvish purple, whatever, kind of moving down into this kind of a little darker purple, and then it gets dark down in here. So it doesn't look quite as black as it might, or at least to me, as it might to you.
Yeah. I'm going to redo it though, because my snow, I made my ruts too dark.
Yeah, they're a little dark, but I think it's not too bad. I mean, again, and like you said, well, I mean, they are darker than mine, so they are a little. Not that that's always wrong, but they are a little on the dark side.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, you could try just lifting it and see if you can't lighten them that way. But if that doesn't, I mean, there's nothing wrong with practicing. I mean, I may even paint this over again just because I'm not 100% sure I'm happy with it yet. But it's practice. We're practicing. We're learning. We're kind of learning what we're doing, and if I had $1 for every painting that I screwed up. Or that didn't turn out the way I thought it should, I'd be pretty wealthy.
Yes.
So, but I think you're on the right track. I think this is actually looking pretty good. I might, because this looks like just a thin line of green along the top. You could almost bring in. Well, I've already got a green sample. You could almost kind of bring some of this like down in here into some spots,
Bring it down some.
Yeah,
Okay.
just in a few spots. That's a little dark. The green that I sampled is this green. It's probably a little too dark, but you know, just kind of bring it down in a few areas, so it's not just a kind of halo of green up there. You know, maybe even
Right.
over here. But that'll just kind of help it out, and then maybe break up this dark a little bit as well.
Yes.
By doing some lifting.
Uh-huh.
Part of that
Okay.
is the dark I painted on there, but yeah, I think you're it's looking really good, and it's you know, yeah, the ruts are a little dark, but you might be able to just lift those out, or you could always make those other shadows a little bit darker.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
You know, that's another way to go, and try and see if that works.
No, I think I'm just going to redo it.
Okay.
I have time now.
Yeah. All right. I think Becky, you want me to look at yours? Well, wait. What did I do here? Where did you? Oh, there you go. Let's see. Let me get the little screenshot thing up. Can you pull it or push it up towards the top, up or up a little? Yeah, there you go. And pull it back just a skosh from the screen. And now actually you need to go down a little bit. I'm sorry. I got you too high. And then just a touch closer to your camera. Now, right. That ought to, well, let's see. Get a little bit closer. Right. Perfect. Right there. Okay. I'm going to try and catch that. Okay, good. I think that's a good shot. Sometimes it's hard to describe where it needs to go.
Well, I have people telling me where to go all the time. So if people give me directions, I know how to get there.
All right, let's see. Let's open this up. Let's crap out the excess bit of screen. Whoops. All right. Let's see. So let's make that just a wee bit bigger. And screen share. I like this, Becky. So yours looks like you're going up a big hill right here. I kind of dig that. That's kind of neat the way that turned out.
Yeah.
Looks good, Becky.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it from far away, but it really does look like a huge hill.
Yeah, it looks like it's going up a really, really big hill right there. But I like that. I like that yours ended up looking that way. Let's see. So you've got these, you've got your shrubs kind of here, but they're all kind of in a straight, they're about the same thickness. And they just kind of follow along here. I might, and I'm just going to sample a color here. Let's see. Get the right thing. Oh. Helps if you finish the thought and then go there. Okay. I might, let's see. I might make some of them like this one, maybe make that just a bit taller there. And then you could even bring some of this down. Well, maybe not there. Let me sample this green. Yeah, it really does. It looks like you're driving up a really steep hill. No wonder
No wonder you got.
Yeah. maybe bring, okay, so let's bring some more dark into here. I'm just using these two color, this green and where I would kind of see how you have this nice varied color right in here. Or even over here. I'm just using this dark green and let's see. I don't like the shape of it. Let me kind of flatten that out a little bit right there. Just bring that down a little bit, maybe, and up a little bit.
Okay.
But I would, like you've got some of these nice oranges and things going on in there. I would add a little bit of that and then just kind of blend all this. Let me see if I can kind of, whoa, that's the wrong brush. What was I using those? Oh, that's why it wouldn't work. I was in the smudge tool. Ah, that solved it.
Smudge.
That solved the mystery. Now I know why that wouldn't work. Why the brush wasn't working earlier. I was in the wrong. Wow. Okay. See, it's so much easier when you can just pick up a brush. I'm not smudging this very well, but you kind of get the
Yeah.
idea. I'm trying to kind of blend that in. Wow. So mystery solved why that brush wouldn't work. And then what I might do is actually bring this dark that you have. Whoops. Let's see. Let's go. You have this kind of nice dark right here. I might bring it down to change this shape here. So I might bring it way down into here, like that. See how that changed that shape
okay.
there? And then added to this shape. Just that little bit kind of helped a little bit right there. But that just kind of changes the shape. So it's not just like this line of, this thick line. It gets a little thicker here, but suddenly we've changed this shape a little bit. And then by bringing this dark down, we've changed that shape a little bit. Otherwise, I really like it a lot. I might add, just because you have a pretty nice dark right there, I might take that same dark and add a wee bit of it over in, well, I didn't sample the right dark, but you get the idea. Bring a little bit more into here, like right underneath this bush, and maybe right there. Just
What
a little
side
bit
are you
more of
on?
that.
Are you
What's
on the
that?
left or the right? What side are you on?
I'm
Are
on
you
the
on
left.
the same?
Yeah, I'm on the
okay.
left. I'm right here. So I didn't sample the right blue, but this real, I picked a pixel that was lighter. But I picked a pixel that was lighter than the one I wanted, but that's the funny thing about Photoshop. It just samples one pixel. But you see how I've added a little bit more. Yeah, and you could even add, just a skosh of a little bit darker right in a couple of these spots. But that really, starts to, I think that's really nice. I might I might make a little bit of dark go there and maybe see if I couldn't lift a little bit of this out in a couple spots. But I might continue that dark. Just that's a little bit thick, maybe just a thinner streak of that up there.
Up where?
Right here. Let me see. See right here.
I don't.
I added that little bit of the brush is too thick, but let me just get rid of it.
Okay.
What I do is take that same blue, and let me just go down
I see where you are. Yeah. I had the lines totally parallel. I had the lines totally parallel all the way up, and so I erased it because the perspective was totally off.
Yeah.
When I looked at it, I said, "No, lines are not parallel."
No, they kind of can.
So okay, you think?
Well, just a little bit of a streak. I'm having trouble getting the angle right, but to kind of start to converge there. But just a little streak of that darker blue. It doesn't necessarily need to be that big. It certainly doesn't need to be that thick, but that'll help.
Right.
If you can, with a brush, it's much easier. Let me just thin this down, maybe just a skosh with the eraser. But just to help continue that, I don't need the
right.
Just to help continue that, maybe even just a bit. I kind of like where that purple breaks in there, but just something like that, just to kind of. I like that break of purple in there, so you don't necessarily need to. have it a full. In fact, you could even have like a little bit of a line, and then the lighter bit, and then maybe just a little bit right there to just kind of help the viewer imagine that keeps going up there. But
Well,
convert so it looks.
no, that's where he gets stuck.
Yeah.
He over the hill.
Yeah. But no, this is looking really nice. I really like it. You could even put a little bit of a shadow. You could even put a little bit more, shadow right in. This is too dark, but a little bit of snow shadow right there too. Maybe cast from that, or maybe it kind of wraps down something.
Oh yeah, I see. Okay, that side.
Yeah, maybe you've got a little bit. Maybe there's this like little gully of something that kind of comes down in there. This is too dark. I would make it kind of. I'm going to circle it. I would make it that dark that you've got right there. Not this dark blue, that you have this really nice, like gray, purpley gray color right there. That's what I would use. Just to kind of break up that really bright white spot. But something, kind of in that shape-ish, something like that.
Just because there's nothing there.
Yeah, it just breaks that up. If I take that away, you can see.
Actually, in the real picture, there is something right there. There is a little shadow right there.
Yeah. Yeah,
you
there
probably
is.
Can't see it.
So, there is. You've got one in on your painting.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you were. Yeah,
But
it probably
really,
just.
really like.
Oh yeah, well maybe just darken it just a skosh. Just a little tiny bit more, and I think you'll be in good shape.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess you and Kathy are the last two holdouts. So.
Well, thank you for looking at it. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, and we'll see you guys on Monday. I'll get this video posted, and then I'll send also a new image. But we might just do a little bit of work on this one. I want to kind of look it over. I want to spend a little time looking at it at mine, seeing if there's anything else I need to do. And then we can look at everybody else's as well. We'll spend a few minutes doing that, and then we can start the next painting.
Okay. Sounds
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, thank you guys, and I'll see you next week.
Be safe.
All right, good night.
Be safe.
Good night. See ya.
See ya.